Okay, so I'm going to add in a class. And remember that a class is a type of selector that allows you to group some elements together. So to do that, let's start with something basic here. And I'm just going to call it my class. So remember that you precede the name that you come up with a period, your open and close brace, and then inside go your properties. So what I'm going to do with my class is I'm going to add a border. So adding a border adds, you can do this in many different ways. If you want to head over to, let's take a look at W3 Schools. And in W3 Schools, if you go over to CSS, you'll see borders. Now, they'll show you several types of borders, so you're drawing lines around whatever your element is. You can do a bottom border, you can do rounded edges, you can do one side, and there are many different styles. So let's experiment with that just a little bit. And I'm going to go with, okay, so border. And a border by itself will accept 3 values, less or more. It just depends on how you want to work with it. But one of them is the weight. So I'm going to make it 3 pixels. That's the weight of the line. Then the style, and I was telling you earlier, you have all these options here: dotted, dashed, solid, double. So we can experiment with something different. These inset, outset give you that 3D effect. So if we want to experiment with inset, and then the third item we can give it is the color. Okay, now there is a section in your book in chapter 2 on borders, so you should go through that and read that. I do like to try to do alignment as best as possible. I know it can get really messy really quickly in here. The other thing I want to mention before we move on is how to add comments inside of your style tag. Your style tag is not like HTML. It is interpreted like C++ code. So you're going to use a / with an asterisk, and then your comments here. So this is class name selector, and then closing is the asterisk again with a slash, so that it looks like parentheses surrounding some text. Okay, and so now you have this class called my class, preceded with a period. You can go ahead and add this attribute, the class attribute, to some of your tags. So I'd like to add it, let's do it with, let's see, what do we have here? Here on this H1, I'm going to say class, that's my attribute, is equal to, and now my value. And so the value here is going to be my class. Right? Notice the period does not go here. All right, so let's add it to a couple more. Like I said, you can group your elements together. I'm going to add it to this span right here. Class equals my class. So same attribute, same value. And then lastly, let's do one more. I'm going to do one of the LIs here, just so you can see how this would look. Class equals my class. So it should be drawing an orange inset border that's 3 pixels in weight around each of these elements. So go ahead and save and render your page. Okay, and there it is, right? There's our border. It is inset, so I don't know if you can quite see that on my screen. I'll make it a little bit bigger. But one thing you should be noticing is this square, or this rectangle, this border that is drawn across your entire page, because this is your H1 tag, and H1 takes up the whole width of the screen. This is an LI, whole width of the screen. This is a span. A span uses only as much size as it needs because it is inline, so it will just take up as much space as needed. Okay, let's go back over to our code and let's try another selector. We're going to try, let's do an ID. So an ID is a little different from a class. It is a unique identifier for an element. Yes, you can put it on multiple, but I don't like that. I like the idea of an ID being an identifier for a single element. It's a much easier to work with when you get to JavaScript, so keep that in mind. Right? So same thing here. This is going to be an ID selector. So An ID is preceded with a hashtag. So it's going to be hashtag, and we'll just call it, how about we call it Hawaii, and we'll put it around Hawaii. Same syntax as before, so you want your curly brace, try to align things as best you can, like I said. Closing brace, and then some properties in between. The property, let's experiment with background. So if you're looking in your book, I'm just going to pause the video to open your book and find the spot. I'm in section 2.5, common properties, and these are the background properties. I'll do another video on backgrounds, but just to show you what you have, these are the 3 properties that are introduced in this section: background color, background image, and background. So background is shorthand for setting several at one time. So you can just do a background color with that. Let's go back to our code. And let's go background dash color. Okay, so if we do a background color, again, you can go to your color picker, but I'm just going to go with a light blue so that it's easy to see on the screen. Okay, and here, now, let's go attach this ID to one of our elements. I'm going to attach to the Hawaii element. Right, and as I said before, you can put the same ID on more than one tag, but I do not recommend that. I recommend putting it on one tag so that you can uniquely identify that tag. And you know what, I'm going to move this. I'd rather put it on the paragraph for our purposes. I'm just going to move it right here. Okay, let me save that, and let's render this page. I think I already have it open, but okay, and there's our background color of light blue on that paragraph, right? So pretty easy to use there. What I'd like to do next is the descendant. So if I demonstrate what the descendant looks like here, notice that it's a tag with its descendant tag separated by a space. So if we go back to our code, let's see, there are plenty of opportunities where we have a tag with a descendant. I mean, you could argue that P is a descendant of the body. You have span that's a descendant of the P here. Why don't we do this situation here where we have a P and then a span as its descendant? Now, notice that you have more than one P with a span as a descendant. And I don't want to mess with this because I already have some CSS that's attached to this class. So let's uniquely go after this one here. And so to uniquely go after it, I can use the ID space and then the tag name. So let's give that a try. So up here, and the ID again is Hawaii space span. Now I can attach some CSS, and why don't we this time go after the font family? And hold on and I'll find it in your book. So this is in section 2.6 in your book. Here's font family, and font family is it describes the type of font that you're going to use. So you can Google a font family list, and that will give you, this one's a good one, the W3C. Gives you a nice list of different font families. Depends on your browser if it will be interpreted correctly. It's versioning sometimes. Let's just try Courier because that one's easy. I'm going to go back to my code, and up here my property is font dash family colon, and then the value is Courier. And one of the things you can do is you can change your font size. And again, if you look in your book, it talks a lot about the different ways that you can change your font size. I'm going to try changing my font size using the percentage value. So you can use a pixel value, but you can also do percent. So 100% would be exactly the way it displays right now. So if I want to increase the size, I would have to go up a number, right? So I'm going to go 150%. And let's change one more item. Let's do font weight. And again, these are all in the book in the same section that I just showed you a minute ago. If you go with font weight here, you can make it bold. Right, and here's my closing brace. Just try to line these up as best you can. Save it, and let's take a look at what that did to our page. Okay, so here is my span, volcanoes, and notice that volcanoes, it changed the font family, it changed the font size, and it changed the weight to bold, but it didn't do the other one, the other paragraph that had the span inside. If you do want to do that, that's this guy right here. So here, what if I change this to P? And what it'll do is it's gonna go and find every P tag that has a span inside. Every P tag that, where'd it go? P tag that has a span inside. I just noticed that this doesn't have a closing slash. Okay, so if I try that now, right, I see the difference here and here applied. But that's where you can cause problems and conflicts. All right, so moving on, let's do just one more, and that is the pseudo selector. So a pseudo selector, and let me just, I'll just type in the notes in here, and then I'll pause the video so you can find it in your book. Just give me one moment. So the pseudo class selector, this is in section 2.3 in basic selectors. It's just further down on the same page. Notice that you have the hover. So if your mouse hovers over something, you can change its CSS. Now, there are others here, and we will at some point talk about these. But I want to demonstrate how the hover works since it's very popular and super easy to use. So I'm going to do, what if we hover over this H1 here and change its background color, change its font color, and change its font size. So I'm going to go with ID equals. I'm going to create an ID for it because I have more than one H1. We'll call it my hover. And up here, right, you're going to go hashtag my hover. Now this case, I'm using an ID. You could use the tag name instead, and then colon and the word hover. And then here, open and close. And let's do a background color. And I'm going to make the background color on your H1 dark gray. Then I'm going to change the font color to white. And I want it to blow up in size a little bit as you hover your mouse over it. So I'm going to go font size. And this time, instead of the percentage, try putting in a pixel value. So let's say 40 pixels. That's an absolute value on that. Now save it and render your page. Whoops. Okay, and if I hover my mouse over, boom, there's the background color, the font size. So that's a little demo on the different class selectors and a couple of the properties that and CSS topics that you'll find in Chapter 2.